know that maybe about 3 weeks ago, Basil Miller, we've heard us speak about him, the huge mega whale hustler out of the Bahamas. Some of his family reached out to us.
Yes.
Gonna actually be catching up with them shortly. And they sent us, hopefully a lot more of it, but some archival newspaper footage from covering Mr. B. You guys have heard early on, we referred to him as Mr. Q. Was trying to kind of keep the anonymity, but as this thing grew bigger and bigger,
cat's out the bag,
cat's
baby.
out the bag that Mr. Q was Mr. B and that Mr. B is Basil Miller.
What's happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr., Cordy Robert Brown Jr. here at Big Boss Filmworks doing a Motown Mafia podcast exclusive. We have, as always, the other half of Big Boss Filmworks, Big Lou Stevens. This is episode 64. Before we get into episode 64, which is being shot live in Nassau, the Bahamas, and we have some very, very special guests sitting in with us, some of the newest members to the Big Boss Filmworks family. Make sure you guys are hitting that like, share, and subscribe button. We got right here Basil Miller III. And we got brother Dwight Smith. What's happening, family? Y'all all right?
Peace and love, Prophet. Peace and love.
Peace and love. That's what I'm saying. So we down here, family. You know, about 4 days ago, we announced the actual much-awaited, long-anticipated project of Motown Mafia Part 2, Motown Mafia Reloaded. It's been in pre-production for like years, but we are no longer putting the pre in front of production. We are in production mode, and that's why we just were down in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. In fact, as we speak, brother Al Prophet, who will be directing Motown Mafia Part 2 Reloaded, he's doing some interviewing. We did some never-been-seen content with Eddie Baby. Shout out to Eddie Baby. Shout out to Eddie Jackson Jr. and over there at Real True Street Crimes. He'll be part. Shout out to Eddie. Shout out to Eddie. Yeah. We'll be bringing in another member of the Motown Mafia family, brother by the name of Walt Haney, as you've heard us refer to him over the years as Money Walt. He was very integral in some of our activities, especially promoting clubs and introducing me to Big Ed of New York, who of course I introduced to Eddie Baby. Of course, all that's going to get unpacked in the project. But for those of you who have not known or have heard parts of our story, we have done 3-4 posts for sure on and heard my father speak about a gentleman by the name of Basil Miller, who was, excuse the background noise there, family. We are live in Nassau. Is
Live and uncut, people.
Yeah, this is live and uncut. So you got the sounds.
And oh yeah, it goes down in Bahamas.
Oh yeah, they got the sounds of the city. It's just like Nassau's a big city, but it's a big city, but it is a beautiful city also.
Yes, it is.
You've heard us speak about Basil Miller. Basil Miller was a mega. He's the boss. He was a boss of bosses. He was what they would call a big fella's big fella. You know what I'm saying? He was the big fella to big fellas. And that's this gentleman's grandfather. And he reached out to us after some buzz, and we put it together. And we're not going to go all through that part of the story because you'll want to hear it all in detail in Motown Mafia Part 2. But the reason why I was coming down to the Bahamas back in the day, getting the money from Detroit back down to the islands, was because of the leadership of his grandfather.
Come 84, Pops has come home from the Fed joint. He's done his time from the original indictment with Eddie and 32-man indictment, during the grand hustle of the 70s.
Right.
While he's in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, he meets a gentleman by the name of Basil Miller. Basil Miller is from the Bahamas, and what I did not know until this article, he had actually been sentenced to 45 years he would not do 45 years. He was exceptionally well connected.
A lot of interest to keep that from happening.
Yeah, there was a lot of interest to keep that from happening.
You started to hear about the stuff we were doing on YouTube maybe how long ago? Last year.
Before last. Yeah. A friend of mine's actually, he came across it.
Okay.
He brought it to my attention. Said, there's a video on YouTube and they're calling your name, and you need to check it out. And I did. I checked it out, and lo and behold, they were speaking about my grandfather.
All right.
From there, I said, I have to see what's going on.
And that's what we're saying about, we at Big Boss always talking about connecting the dots and linking up and taking advantage of in this world we live in now. We don't need CBS or NBC or CNN to tell our stories. We can tell our own stories. Yet somebody misbehaving today in the Bahamas, man.
Every day.
Somebody's misbehaving.
That's someone they take into the House of Assembly, like a government official, just go in.
Oh, that's like big shots.
Office and
Okay. So what actually this area that we're in Nassau is called?
West Bay Street.
West Bay Street.
Yeah. West. They say the West is the best.
The West is the best.
West is the best.
All right. So, we're gonna get into again the project, so we're not gonna spill all the beans. But his grandfather was the kind of character that Hollywood is yet to really portray, and even all respect to all the great gangster movies that have been done about our culture or been done, they never really show a black man operating at the highest levels, connections in politics worldwide, truly global international connections from South America to Europe to Asia. We'll go into, and we've mentioned it in some of our past episodes, you guys who've seen the movie Blow or who followed the Netflix series Narcos, they talk about obviously Pablo Escobar, one of his chief lieutenants, Carlos Leder. Well, his grandfather was directly involved with that situation. In fact, some of our people, one of my dad's lieutenants met Carlos Escobar through, Carlos Leder, not Pablo Escobar, met Carlos Leder here in the Bahamas through his grandfather. We'll go through, because you guys are explaining to me, how many islands make up the Bahamas?
700 islands and keys.
So when you hear on Narcos them talking about places like Norman's Cay or Cat Island, those are just part of the island chains.
That's part of it.
Right? And I take it that Norman's Cay and Cat Island are some of the southern?
Way out to the end, more like far out.
Like, so going towards South America or the Caribbean?
Going towards the Caribbean.
Going towards the Caribbean.
Towards Haiti and Dominican Republic. Cuba.
Okay, right. So if you do the math for the geography family, if the Medellin cartel and Escobar and Carlos Leder got the bag in Colombia, short skip for them to get to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and a very short skip to get to the Bahamas. And obviously, right now where we're at, we're only 60 miles away from U.S. soil. So once the word got to the Bahamas, getting it to the United States was easy.
Basil was obviously a big shot, in the Fed joins like almost college. Everybody knows everybody's resume and where they went to, what they've accomplished and things of that. And Basil knew the members of the Gambino family, and Pops knew working for Eddie. So Pops and Basil form a relationship. They keep in touch. So this is like circa 82-ish, 81, 82-ish. Pops gets down to Atlanta in 77, so I guess he meets Basil in 77 because Basil gets arrested August 17th, 1974.
Right.
So basically 3 years later, he's already at Atlanta when Pop gets to Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. sees he's a big whale. You know, they always laughed. Only blacks that could sit at the table with the Italians was Mr. B and Pops.
And your dad.
Yeah, they be like, yeah, you special niggas. Why them Italians talk to y'all, let y'all eat with them, you know? And Pops would be like, they talk crazy about Basil, but never to his face.
Oh, no.
He'd be like, they call him funny style and everything else, but never to his face.
So, what do you guys hear about or remember any of the stories about, just not particularly our situation, but the Bahamas in the 80s?
There, the Bahamas in the 80s was the drug gateway of the world.
Of the world, right? And it was. I mean, again, it's been well documented through Netflix series, through the movie Blow, and obviously if you have seen Cocaine Cowboys 1 or 2, long before there was this thing in Mexico and the Sinaloa cartel and any of that stuff. In short, the Bahamas was in the 80s what the Mexican border is now.
There you go.
This is where all the action was happening at. Yeah. And the difference is it was people of our complexion deeply involved in the situation, unlike now, where you guys got to go talk to those people who don't even speak your language to get some work. It wasn't that kind of situation back then, right?
But actually, Claxton was the guy who really had the weight.
The Italian mafia around here in Detroit had really been the primary wholesalers dating back to Prohibition. You had men like Giovanni Papa John Prizziola and Raphael Jimmy Q or Jimmy the Goon Quazzarano. Mr. Quazzarano as well as Mr. Prizziola had very, very solid ties over in Sicily, as well as ties into the French connection.
Claxton had met a connect out in Oak Park, some Italian.
Klassen was being fed top-quality heroin through Sam the Mustache Norber, a remnant of Detroit's infamous Jewish Purple Gang.
He was getting some of the best dope in the city. No question about it.
This territory was always recognized nationally as not just a hub for Detroit Italians, but a hub for national Italians to get their drugs.
So we were scuffling with it, you know, and we did this for like 4 or 5 months.
In '69, Eddie Jackson finally caught a break. A well-known junkie in Paradise Valley by the name of Box claimed he could hook Eddie up with someone big.
Box, he was just another average guy, man, Eddie, who happened to know Claxton.
First thing Box said, man, give me a blow, I'm sick. Eddie said, man, you ain't done what you say, man. Don't worry about it, man. No big man. Don't worry about it. Who is this guy you talking about? John Claxton. Man, and you a junkie and you don't, I know him. He just bought a house in Palmer Park, cost $40,000. I said, man, ain't no nigga got $40,000. So sure enough, he did know Claxton. Took Eddie out there. Eddie came back with some jive. I look at the package. I figured sugar or flour. I say, what is that? He said, that's dope. I say, man, a person pay you for this shit? He said, yeah. They started capping up the jive. I'm fascinated because I'd never seen heroin or cocaine in my life. I'm 30 years old, never seen it. And I said, what they do? He said, they capping up these penny caps and they sell them for $1 a piece.
With Eddie now being supplied by John Klassen, his operation took off, and soon Eddie could be seen riding the streets in a brand new red convertible Cadillac.
I was working at the gas station on Gratiot and Madison. Eddie used to come through with them Cadillacs and stuff, you understand, which, you know, every black guy, you understand, wanted to drive a Cadillac. And I used to tell Eddie, let me hustle with him. He said, man, you know I can't hustle with you because, you understand, you know your mama kill me.
Eddie come flying around the corner in a 1969 red Cadillac convertible, brand new.
San Mateo red. I never will forget it because we had went out to the car dealership out on Grand River, and he had picked that car out when we had first started, and I was like, man, you ain't finna make that kind of money to buy no Cadillac, you know, because I'm not thinking that big, but he is. And when I came home, he had that Cadillac.
Get in the car. I said, I'm not getting in the car, it's stolen. And Lodger, his brother laughed, said, no, Eddie just bought it at Coffee Cadillac for $6,900. I said, $6,900? He paid cash for it.
Once Eddie hooked up with Claxon, he started getting a product that he could work with, you know.
Seeing his buddy's business was now booming, Courtney Brown decided to supplement his day job by moonlighting with Eddie.
My mother and father had separated, and my father went to stay at this house on Mark Twain Street. And that morning, I woke up in the morning, and I hear these men talking in the kitchen. And I peeped in the kitchen, and it was a pile of white substance on the table. I had no idea what it was. The pile had to be like 4 feet high. But my father, he ushered me back in the room.
Eddie soon assigned him the task of finding an apartment building he could purchase to use as a headquarters for the operation. Courtney found it on Hancock Street and John R. in Midtown Detroit.
They was getting a little bigger. They opened a place on Hancock.
He kept saving his money, and then he bought that building up there on Hancock, and then he started selling quarters.